Americans have been fired up over news that private equity firms are snatching up the limited inventory of residential housing to basically turn them into rentals to become the largest slumlords in this country. Now, people are understandably upset about that. I've been upset about that. We've talked about it at the Young Turks, but Wall Street doesn't like that we're paying attention to it. So, CEO for Coldwell Banker goes on CNBC and tries to lie to the American people about the reality of the situation. Let's watch.
I want to ask you about an issue I hear more and more concern about, which is the role of investors in the market and the extent to which they're driving up prices or elbowing out other buyers. In fact, Peter Bookvar, an economist and market strategist, spoke to this in his note today where he said, it's the private equity yield grab that's in full force and the first time buyer, in his words, is getting screwed here. How much competition do you see from buyers like these, from investors in the housing market?
Well, certainly, like your last guest was mentioning, that housing and real estate in general is a bit of an inflation hedge. There's certainly a lot of money flowing toward that. So you would think that with a lot of this institutional capital flowing into it, that some buyers will be squeezed out. I will say today, though, is a very, very small percentage of the overall market. Yes, cash offers are very high. The vast majority of cash offers, even in multiple offer situations, are coming from individuals who are looking to occupy the home and own the home just as they would any other. So institutional buyers, I think, are going to continue to grow. Money's going to continue to flow into that category, as well it should. And the multifamily category is very strong and has been for a long time. I think single family rental will continue to be strong. In terms of impact on the overall market, though, we're talking about percentage points, low single digits at this point, with some markets trending a little bit higher than that. So something to watch, but not as concerning as it might sound.
No, not single digit percentage points. No, he's a liar. And also, you might have missed it, but this is the important part of his statement because it reveals what his actual intentions or biases are, right? He says that I think institutional investment is going to keep pouring into the industry, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah, you think it's a good thing because you are the CEO of Coldwell Banker. Like, you're a Wall Street CEO, and you're the very kind of person that loves this kind of stuff.
But he's not concerned.
Of course he's not concerned.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what?
We're different.
Let's bring on a bank robber to talk to us about why bank robbery is a good thing.
Hey, robbers are going to continue to flow in, and as they should, and I have to say I'm not really worried about it.
Now, as you guys know, I like to provide actual evidence to my argument, not just say things and then not actually back it up. So let's take a look at Houston, for instance. Houston is a favorite haunt of investors who have lately accounted for 24% of home purchases there. Investors' slice of the housing market grows as it does in other boom towns such as Miami, Phoenix, and Las Vegas, among properties priced below $300,000 and in decent school districts. So in other words, in decent school district areas where families might want to buy their first home, in those areas, that's where they're buying up the houses. And then are they flipping the houses, which is also an annoying thing that people do? No, that's not what they're doing. It's even worse. They don't ever put it back on the market so workers, middle-class families can actually buy them as the literal only way left in this country to build wealth for ordinary people. They just turn them into rentals and then they neglect them, okay? The corporate landlords, I mean, we did a story on that recently, are incredibly neglectful of the properties that they own. They don't do the necessary repairs. We showed a video of a family whose child is suffering from serious respiratory issues as a result of black mold in the building. I mean, it is awful. It is awful. And for this guy to come on there and for CNBC to invite him on as if like he's a credible person who has like an interesting and relevant thing to say about this. No, he's the very person who gets to take advantage and exploit how this system is set up. And look, the one thing that he seems to agree with us on is that there is limited inventory. Let's hear the second part of that video.
Some of the new construction inventory, it's highly sought after. A lot of builders have even looked at shutting down their sales centers because frankly, they don't have enough to deliver, whether there's lumber shortage, labor shortage, or land just can't get ready quickly enough.
Yeah, there lumber shortage, housing shortage, it's real tough. So maybe there should be regulations in place to prevent private equity firms from snatching up the limited inventory. One of the other arguments that I hear, John, is, well, that Wall Street Journal story that drew attention to this, they covered how, one of these private equity firms bought an entire neighborhood. The thing is, they developed that entire neighborhood specifically so the private equity firms can buy it. Oh, does that make things better somehow? Let me give you the details and I want to hear what you think, John. DR Horton Inc. Built 124 houses in Conroe, Texas, rented them out and then put the whole community, Amber Pines at Foster's Ridge, on the block. A who's who of investors and home rental firms flocked to the December sale. The winning $32 million bid came from an online property investing platform, Fundrise LLC, which manages more than $1 billion on behalf of about 150,000 individuals. So if we have a shortage of housing and we keep hearing that we need to build more housing, cool. Why are we building housing specifically for private equity firms? And why is it that we aren't putting laws in place ahead of time before there's any type of construction boom?
Yeah.
Because normal Americans, working Americans, do not have the capital to buy these homes in cash. And they're competing with private equity firms who get money from the Federal Reserve, right? They get cheap money from the Federal Reserve, and they can buy homes in cash.
Yeah. And if it were just that there are these multiple simultaneous things making it harder, like a lumber shortage, like an inventory shortage, like companies buying up a whole bunch and then not, like literally just holding them back to restrict how many are on the market at any given time. And there are also international buyers and all that. That would be bad enough, but of course these things do combine. If there's a lumber shortage, then a whole bunch of individual homeowners trying to get a home built are probably going to have a difficult time getting access to limited resources. And lumber is like shorthand for there's difficulty in getting literally everything. A company that's developing an entire neighborhood is gonna buy in bulk and probably get a better deal and preferential access to a lot of these resources that are still, more than a year out, quite limited. So these things are combining. And I know you expressed anger at the fact that they had this guy on as a guest, but of course you're not surprised that they do.
Right.
This is what a business network is. It's not so much about business as it's for business. And I'll say what I've said many times, why isn't there a business network that's about business, but designed for regular people?
Right.
Like that doesn't actually exist. It is only for the wealthy.
Yeah, of course.
And I understand that they're the ones who have the money or whatever. It's, but I think that something like that is necessary to help fight back against some of the narratives. When you see, Forbes and CNBC and Wall Street Journal and Fox Business all agree on virtually everything, because this isn't really about ideology in some sort of broad sense, some sort of cultural or social sense. This is about maintaining the status quo, using the massive amount of money that they have for lobbying to make sure that there's no challenges to that in terms of legislation. We need something to counterbalance that. And it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in our media, and it doesn't exist in the way the country's governed, right? So I'm not against building more housing, but I am against, building more housing without first ensuring that the people who have the upper hand as a result of the Fed's monetary policy don't just snatch up those homes as soon as they're built. Like that's what needs to be discussed, and it's not discussed. You think the CEO of Coldwell Banker is gonna go on that network and be like, here's the problem. We're just taking too much of this cheap money from the Federal Reserve, and it gives us an upper hand, and that's how we're pricing all of these, ordinary Americans out of the market. No, he's not gonna say that. He's not gonna say that. And every single time I hear someone on CNBC say, oh, this inflation though, the inflation's transitory, it's transitory inflation, transitory inflation, transitory. It's not transitory. It's not transitory. Yes, there's a labor shortage right now. That is not the only thing contributing to inflation.
Yeah.
When the Federal Reserve prints money and there's more money, and banks and private equity firms and all of these Wall Street goons have access to that cheap capital, right? they are able to, they don't loan it out to people. Like that was the idea of the Federal Reserve's monetary policy. They're not loaning it out to ordinary people. They're using it to buy shares of their own stock, or they're using it to make these types of real estate investments. And the low interest rates, that's also contributing to the inflation we're experiencing right now. So these arguments about it just being transitory, like, oh, it's just this temporary thing, it's gonna all go away and everything's gonna be wonderful. No, there's a reason why the so-called economic recovery is not true for everyone. It's an unequal recovery, much like the unequal recovery we experienced following the 2008 economic collapse.
Yeah.
So. All right, I spent a lot of time on that story. Sorry, I get heated about it.
It's a housing story, I expected it.
Sorry.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.